He looked like so much fun. And I said to somebody, "Who is that out there dancing in the middle?" And they said, "His name is Sam Ketcham. He lives way up north. You don't want to meet him."
But she did want to meet Sam, and before long the two were in love, and Janet found herself living in Williams Lake, where Sam and his brothers had invested in a tiny sawmill that would eventually become the largest lumber producer in British Columbia.
Sam loved the country and loved the people he met up there, and found a little mill in Quesnel that he thought was interesting, and called Pete and I, and we went up and took a look, and that was the 2 Mile Mill.
Bill Ketcham says when he and Pete walked into 2 Mile Mill, they said to Sam, "What the heck is this? It looks like everything is being held together with baling wire." And while it probably was, it was one of the few deals that they could finance.
Well, we paid $300 down on the condition that Sam could work with them for a month. And if it looked good to Sam after he'd worked with them for a month, then we would pay them $15,000 and take over and pay the balance out of profit.
After finalizing the terms of the purchase, Pete and Bill returned to Seattle. Sam was left to run the mill because he was the only one who knew the difference between a crescent wrench and a hammer. It was skin of the teeth survival for a long time.
Biggest obstacle was going broke, and he thought about it all the time. And he said, "Well, either we'll grow or we'll go broke."
And there were problems, big ones.
And then very early, we had fires. The mill burned down. Not too many years after that, while we were there, the bigger mill, the one in Quesnel, burnt to the ground.
Ever the optimists, the brothers rebuilt and forged on because they believed in themselves, their employees, and the future.
The company became a company that was based on practicality, common sense, and frugality.
Throughout the history of the company, the Ketcham brothers were fortunate to have a close group of dedicated and loyal employees who had the same vision. They all wanted to grow.
They'd worked through the late 50s and the 60s, consolidating timber quotas, buying people's quotas. Eventually they built a very large, it was at the time the largest small log mill in the world.
Under Sam's leadership, the company continued to grow. Then tragedy struck. Sam and Chief Forester Phil Bottom were killed in a helicopter crash.
You know, it was 4 days before they found them. We thought that we'd find them by the helicopter, you know, laughing and saying, "We thought you'd never," you know. The tragedy was that not surviving.
The effect on the company and the community was devastating.
He was Mr. West Fraser. He died, and there was a short period of time when people wondered, do we even want to go on?
Shortly after Sam's death, J.A. business laureate Chester Johnson joined the company as CEO.
I think Chester changed us from a small upcountry company to a Vancouver-based lumber company.
Then in 1985, Chester recommended Hank Ketcham take over as president. With his father Pete as chairman, they soon took the company public.
The decision to go public was really made, initially it was made because we had gone through a very difficult recession in the 80s, and the company was expanding, and we felt that it was prudent to get access to outside capital.
The team of Pete as chairman and Hank as president took the company in new directions.
We also got into the building supply business, and eventually that turned into Revelstoke Home Centers, Revy Home and Garden, and became one of the largest building supply businesses in Canada.
In 1989, they partnered with Ron Stern to construct Alberta Newsprint, and they also turned their attention to the environment. In the Kitlope Valley, West Fraser donated the largest intact rainforest in the world back to the province as a nature reserve.
The environmental group came to us and told us they had done some studying on this area that we had not yet logged, and it was a very large area called the Kitlope. As a group, as a company, we just said, this is our chance, this is our opportunity that you don't get very often to give something back that is unique.
In the 90s, they moved beyond BC borders, purchasing the forest products division of Alberta Energy. The decade was one of upheaval in the forest industry in BC, and the company needed to diversify. As the new century dawned, they sold off Revy and underwent growth the way they had always done it. They purchased a substantial number of companies.
Well, West Fraser was able to continue to grow primarily just because of the culture we had in the company. But we also were a pretty conservative company, really. I mean, we generally always had a pretty conservative balance sheet. So when times got tough, we never got into too much trouble.
That strong balance sheet allowed the company to make acquisitions that moved them into the U.S. And then, in 2004, West Fraser realized a long-held dream. They purchased Weldwood from International Paper. West Fraser is now the largest lumber producer in British Columbia. It employs thousands of people and is a major contributor to the economy of British Columbia. The vision, leadership, and integrity of the Ketcham family built a truly remarkable company.
Some of the qualities that we read about today that they ask executives to be, they were by nature. They're hardworking, conscientious, they didn't take big salaries. It was a narrow, tight focus. People didn't have the perks and the glamour.
They not only saw something that others may not have seen, but they were willing to make the sacrifices to go after it. I mean, when you look at the company today and see how successful it's been, when you go back and look at the pictures and talk to the people who pioneered the company about the hardships in the early days and what they went through, it is really an incredible story of success.
The company has faced many challenges. The 2008 meltdown of the housing industry in the United States is shaping up to be one of the biggest for the company and their industry.
Challenges now are, how do you run a mature industry? How do you keep people turned on in the morning about a mature industry in British Columbia?
The history of West Fraser and the Ketcham family suggests they and the team of exceptional foresters they call friends will navigate their way through this and many other challenges they face now and into the future.